Thank you for the days, those endless days, those sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days I won't forget a single day, believe me. Days I remember all my life, days when you can't see wrong from right. You took my love, but then I knew that very soon you'd leave me. But it's alright, now I'm not frightened of this world, believe me. Thank you for the days, those endless days, those sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days I won't forget a single day, believe me. I bless the light, I bless the light that shines on you, believe me. And though you're gone, you're with me every single day, believe me.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world or when you're tuning into this, in case you're not joining us live tonight. We're back. We're back again with another one of our breakdown streams. So we did this last week. We had some really good feedback where we looked at cash flow forecasts. So I think we'll kind of continue on for a little bit, just doing various topics, various things that are quite practical to break down, because I think rather than kind of just giving you workshop style sessions or talking you through presentations, actually, I think some people really learn by just a live demonstration and people kind of putting into practice these concepts and ideas, which are really great. Bit of intro music again, following on from last week. So we had Days and This Time Tomorrow by the Kinks. Completely off topic, but I think Kinks are one of those real soundtrack bands that they have music and songs and to suit every occasion, every facet of our lives in a way. That one, This Time Tomorrow especially, I absolutely love that song. Such a, I think, optimistic song and forward-looking song, which with the kind of work that we do, that's our intention. So we're set up, we're ready to go. I've got not peppermint tea this week, green tea. Pretend that I drink green tea all the time, probably like once a week when I'm doing these streams. But here we are. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I am Daniel Evans. I'm Chief Executive here at BEC, where we support a whole different range of businesses, from startups, early stage, through to high growth and scaling businesses, every single sector and industry. So we've done everything from food and drink through to rockets into space. And I've had the pleasure of supporting businesses from over 20 different countries around the world. So quite a international and well spread out audience as well. So again, wherever you're joining us from, you're very welcome here today. So we're going to look at this concept of the SWOT analysis. And this is one of those very business school-esque tools and frameworks that, one of your kind of management consultants in, one of the big management consulting companies would whip out to use. But it's also something that I think every single business can use and apply to a different range of concepts, really to help businesses make better decisions and review scenarios, review where they're at. And that seems to be a common theme from last week, is that was all about understanding the context of where we currently sit and understand and having something that could really empower us to make better decisions. So I think SWOT kind of follows on from that and looks at it through a different lens, because of course there are multiple lenses that we look at in this context. So let's break it down. Let's then have a look at a bit of a live demo in terms of putting one together. I'm really looking forward to doing that. But the SWOT analysis essentially is kind of 4 viewpoints of the business. We have our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And essentially looking at both the internal and external factors to our business. Again, separating out both is really important from that decision-making perspective, understanding the context of where you are internally and where you are externally. Big difference there as well is that there's that separation between the things that you can control internally and those external factors that are outside of your control. This, especially with the opportunities and threats, looks at potential opportunities, clues in the name, for your business, but also those risks and dangers that you need to be kind of ever aware of. I'm going to do something a little bit different to start us off. I've got a clip that I want to share. I did consider not showing this, but I am going to show it. This is from a TV show called Silicon Valley. Now, Silicon Valley is a American sitcom about a group of people starting up a business in Silicon Valley. Tech startup, kind of plays off all that Silicon Valley culture type stuff. If you've not seen it before, quite a funny show. Some bits are, quite relatable and quite accurate. Some bits are far-fetched and TV, so what do you expect? But the SWOT analysis comes up in this TV show as a kind of corporate mechanism. And I started off the conversation by saying this corporate mechanism that somebody that they bring in from a corporate organization to come and work for this little startup tries to kind of push onto the guys. They obviously all roll their eyes and are not particularly interested, but then find themselves in a situation where they see its use. I will preface this clip in saying that there is some strong language, some strong themes that are not appropriate for everybody and not everybody's cup of tea. Obviously, if you're not into that sort of humor, then maybe skip the next couple of minutes because there are a few, what do you say, choice words. But I think it's quite a funny clip, and shows. It does explain SWOT in a way. I think the way that the guys apply it in the second half of the clip, they kind of get a few things wrong, and obviously not a context that you would really apply it in. But watch the clip, see for yourself. Again, mindful of the strong language, and we'll jump into it afterwards.
Shit, I don't know.
Now, this is critical, Richard. Maybe we should SWOT this decision.
I don't know what that is, but no.
SWOT analysis?
Nope.
SWOT? No? Holy cow.
Did he really just say, holy cow?
I've had a board ready for just such an occasion. I've booby-trapped the house with corporate resources. SWOT is a way of evaluating a decision, and you just break it down into strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
You're fucking joking.
Not at all. You can SWOT a concept, a department, or a new initiative. You can even SWOT a person, although you have to be careful. They might SWAT you back.
I want to SWAT you.
Well, you can, because now you have the tools. Okay, shout them out, and I'll tack them up.
Jared, I'm really sorry, but I have to go.
You know, would it make more sense if I worked something up and then I got back to you guys when... Okay, great. I'm on it. People love condors.
This might be morbid, but the cold hard fact is that if Blaine dies on our live stream, this could be good for us. I mean, we get a lot more traffic.
Well, and it would probably lead to calls for regulations in the stunt industry, so in the long term, we're saving lives. Although there is the moral problem with letting him die. Although he did tell us to shut up.
And his name is Blaine.
And Gina is super hot.
And this would make her single.
She'd probably need consoling, so there's an opportunity.
Opportunity.
Should we SWAT this?
Bereaved women do tend to act out sexually.
Yeah, so that's the strength. Blaine doesn't die, but he is horribly incapacitated, and then while he's in the hospital, he gets a flesh-eating virus, and then he dies.
Well, obviously, his incessant suffering will be a strength.
But our ability to enjoy it is an opportunity.
What if before he dies, Gina catches the virus, and then she spreads it from her vagina to your penis?
Wait, so in this scenario, I get to have sex with Gina? That's an opportunity. Okay, how about this?
I'm listening.
We let Blaine die, but then he's not around to stop someone else from committing some huge fucked up act of evil.
The kill Hitler scenario.
Right?
Hey guys, you guys busy? Cool. I got something I gotta say. Listen, I know that I was really rude to both of you yesterday. It's just, when I got a stunt coming up, I'm a bundle of nerves, and sometimes I can take that out on other people. You know, even with all the support that I get from Gina and our kids, I don't know why. But, and then again, I'm a guy who needs to risk his life jumping over stuff, so what's that all about, right? You know, actually just an hour ago, I spotted an error in my math. Would have had me smeared across the side of that building. Anyway, now I'm just totally rambling. Typical Blaine. What I wanted to say was that I'm sorry. We cool?
Yeah, we're cool. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, you should go quickly, because we have work to do.
What's this?
What is that?
Let Blaine die.
Oh, shit. We write in code. This is compression.
Strengths. Blaine's last moment is realizing face is gone. Weaknesses. Blaine dies super fast.
Yeah, you really shouldn't be looking at that. That's all proprietary.
Opportunities. Fuck Gina.
Would you believe that was here when we came in?
Again, anybody that's offended by the strong language, very sorry. As you can see, it does actually, the kind of first part gives you I think a really good understanding of the SWOT analysis. The second part obviously is a bit more satirical, and as I said, poorly applied both in terms of its context but also the categorization, if we're going to be correct, around some of the strengths, opportunities, weaknesses and threats. I said that all in completely the wrong order, so it really put me off. So we're going to look at a live example of this and kind of run through it. Obviously, any questions, any comments, as always, please do ask in through the chat. Even if you're watching this after the fact, I'm sure that we can pick them up as we go. So I'm going to share a window. Fantastic. So essentially, we're going to, as I said, walk through a live version of this to have a look at how it works in reality. I've picked a really real example. So when I did the one last week, it was kind of a bit more hypothetical. I'm actually going to do a real example this week because I think that that's going to help to spread a bit more context on this. So we're gonna pick on my wonderful little shop in Wales. Bang! Look at that, pre-prepared and ready to go. So this is Osborne Grocery and Gift Shop, a beachside shop in southwest Wales, in Amroth in Pembrokeshire. Start of the coastal walk, the 186-mile coastal walk path. Along what was voted the second best coastline in the world. Number one was the Great Barrier Reef. We got number two. I don't think that's bad at all. In terms of top holiday destinations last year, in a poll that was done again by, I can't remember, one of the big travel companies, Pembrokeshire came in at about number 30. It bet the Bahamas, it bet the Gold Coast, it bet the Emirates, it bet some other really big players, and it is beautiful. So obviously, if I spin this camera around here, I mean, look at this. This is for the great team working in the shop. This is their office view for the day. This is what they look at. We've got just over to the right here. If I zoom in, you're not going to be able to see it properly. So just off in the distance there, you've got Saunders Foot, the next village along. Right in the middle of the cove there, you've got Wiseman's Bridge. Wiseman's Bridge actually is one of the places where they practice the D-Day landings, World War II. If we go over to the right here, behind the end point, you'd have Tenby, but you can't see Tenby on here. The island that you can just make out on the left of this, though, is Culdee Island, famous for the monks that make chocolate on the island. You can go and visit the island. All the way over to this side. In the far distance, you can't really see it, but that is Pendine, 7-mile long beach where they used to do the land speed records. And on a very clear day, you can see the Gower coast over near Swansea on this as well. So our little beautiful village, and as I said, our shop, zoom back out, that me and 3 of my cousins acquired earlier this year. Been trading for over 45 years, so has been serving the village for a very long time, and we've taken on and looking to kind of continue to develop and grow. So within the kind of SWOT analysis part of this, as we said, we could do it on the business overall, but you can also do it on certain scenarios, certain decisions, teams, that sort of thing. I'm going to kind of share with something that we're looking at the moment. So if I zoom over to here, as you can see, we've got this kind of little unit on the side here, something that at the moment is called the potting shed. So the potting shed at the moment, I can actually, this is great, this is, to be fair, because it's very interactive. At the moment, you can see is filled with kind of garden ornaments and trinkets and this sort of thing. The previous owners set it up as an ice cream kiosk, because you can imagine selling ice cream from here with this part on the front would be ideal. We actually have it in the store. So one of our original thoughts at the moment was, could this be turned into a food kiosk to be able to sell hot takeaway food to everybody that's around here and doing this. So what we're going to do is have a look at that as a scenario and think about, oh, hang on a minute, I'll go down the alley. Think about then a SWOT analysis for this as an opportunity here. So that's what we're going to do. Here is our framework. So I've just loaded a template off Miro. Again, if you wanted a template, we could whip one up and share a link for that. But of course, this is quite a simple one in that really you just need 4 boxes. So you can almost take an A4 sheet of paper if you're so inclined to do things on paper. I'm going to need see my camera just to hold this up. And literally just draw it, if you can see there, into 4 sections. And you could just fold this into 4 separate pieces of paper, whatever way you wanted to do it. Draw it as an X on a whiteboard, and again, do it that way. 4 boxes. Your top 2, so strengths, weaknesses. Remember there, the internal factors. So that's things internally to the business that you have control of. And then the bottom 2 boxes, your opportunities and threats. Again, external factors as well. This really breaks it down in another way as well, looking at the kind of helpful and harmful. So your strengths and opportunities being helpful and I guess slightly more of a positive kind of vibe, and then weaknesses and threats as those kind of harmful factors. So let's start off. I'm wondering if we might just do this as lists. So what I usually like to do with this is kind of bang some sticky notes, but these sticky notes are going to be far too big. So I think for now we might just try and stick with doing some lists in here. So if I start internally, so I'm going to focus internally, I'm going to focus on my strengths and weaknesses. Again, because I'm thinking about certain elements. So if I start with this, so strengths, as it says here, positive, tangible and intangible attributes internal to an organization within the organization's control. Okay, and again, I'm thinking about this in terms of this opportunity to turn that kiosk into a almost like a street foodie type thing. So I'm going to start to develop a list on here. So strength number 1 for me is a location. So obviously that's internal because it's somewhere we've based ourselves rather than an external thing. But that location, you couldn't get a better spot in terms of that view. Also, obviously a popular destination, very strong with the locals. So it's one of a lot of locals, if you ask them around that part of Pembrokeshire, favourite beach, Amroth always a local's favourite, but also with the other sorts of traffic we've got locally, a very popular destination. So location is one. Second strength is in terms of the infrastructure. Again, we've got our own separate unit, which is a fair size. It has electricity, it has water. We've got more storage space in the back. So that kind of infrastructure is all there to do that. And again, something that we have control of. Next strength, obviously on a local level, we have a strong social media following. So really good and engaged. So when we post stuff on, especially Facebook's a good one for us with the shop. Really, really strong and kind of following on there. Building on the back of that as well. Another one, reputation. So really great, strong reputation as a, in terms of local business. A lot of repeat custom from people who are who are frequent and regulars to the location itself. Okay, so I'm just trying to think if I can think of any more strengths that we can add onto there for now. I'm just going to keep, my problem is with my setup here is I can't kind of easily access comments, but there we go. Okay, so there are those. We're going to flip across to weaknesses and have a little look at the weaknesses. Oh, another strength. So because the shop sells ice cream, it's already registered with Pembrokeshire County Council in terms of food hygiene, and we have controls in place for food hygiene and also our allergy control as well. So that wouldn't be something new to the premises. It's something that we already have a system in place for and know and good at, and knowledge in terms of the team from that perspective too. So going across to weaknesses, so the internal factors within an organisation's control that detract from the organisation's ability to attain the desired goal, which areas might the organisation improve? So number one, this is always, it flips, because sometimes you can be kind of somebody who is really good at the kind of strengths one, or you can kind of flip and actually be bad at the strengths, or good at identifying the weaknesses. I think for me personally, weaknesses is always the hard one, and not because I kind of lack that awareness of what weaknesses is. I don't know, it's just something about it. Whereas the things like the threats, so the threats really good at in terms of that risk analysis and identifying risks. Weaknesses is one that I don't know, I sometimes have a bit of a struggle with. Key one for me here in terms of relevant to this is that the team capability. This always sounds really negative when you say it like this, but it's not. In terms of food background, so we've got some really great staff with retail experience of various kinds. In terms of if we were going to develop a street food offer, we've not got anybody in the team that's got that background in terms of, worked on, I don't know, a street food truck or something like that, which would be massive if we had that, but we've not got that. So that's number one. The second one I would put in here, again, trying to think about customers and the kind of customer experience, is the kind of lack of area for seating. So if I bring this back up again, so if you imagine this then from that practical experience, as you can see here in terms of the main forecourt, a lot of stock and stuff like that from the main shop. We have obviously got this area here where you could put a couple of pieces, but not a lot, because if you were said had a little queue here, what you don't want is having a queue here from the potting shed window, but then nowhere to sit as well. So limited seating opportunities, I think, would be a little bit of a problem. And again, I get that it's street food and that sort of thing, but for some people, I can put my mum as an example. My mum, if she was making a decision about somewhere to sit, that would be one. Somewhere to go food, seating would be one. We know that if you can, as you can see here, a load of benches here, a load of benches across here. As you can imagine, a nice hot summer, June, July day, these benches are all full. You can't sit down here. There's people sat on the wall. They're absolutely everywhere. So, so that's the kind of one of our problems as well. In terms of other weaknesses, so one that's just come to mind on the strengths would be supplier relationships. So we've got really great supply chains, supplier relationships. Really good example. Let's say we were going to do something like, I'm just going to pick burgers as an example because it's one quick, or something meat based like that. We've got a local butcher up in Narberth, Andrew Reese, who supplies our meat. They're literally down the road. They come down. very easy. Funnily enough, a very distant relation to us, which is one of those. But that's the it's kind of area that it is that you're always partially related to someone somewhere. But really, that's a really great example of that. Again, I don't know. We could look at the bread situation or this or that. Really great supply chain already in place that would service if we were to expand into this. Weaknesses. Now there's got to be some more weaknesses. I'm going to put this one. Some people might not kind of agree with in here. Setup of equipment. So although I've said the infrastructure's there, we've not got the equipment. And this remember is a dynamic process because the whole point with this is kind of looking at what we need to do. So straight away here we know, okay, well, part of the marketing efforts, that kind of location, reputation, we're going to play off these things to enable this. Same with on the weaknesses is how do we minimize or our weaknesses or eliminate them? So team capability in terms of food background. Do we hire somebody in especially for this? Do we look to upskill members of the team to get these skills? Seating opportunity, maybe again one of those things that we can't do something about. Setup of equipment, but we can go out and purchase equipment and get that in. So these are never kind of static factors, or ideally they're not static factors that you can kind of do something or mitigate at least against. I've got a couple of comments, so I'm just going to. Laura Bailey, you're right on the money there. So, do you have existing staff with skills to deliver hot food? As I answered there, we've not got that direct. Also, cooking facilities and equipment. So, if I check the comment section 2 minutes earlier, it would have saved me having to sit there and ponder and do those kind of things because they're exactly two of the two weaknesses that we have there. Completely right. Fantastic. So, thank you for those, Laura. If I move across to opportunities now, so opportunities, the external attractive factors that represent the reasons for an organization to exist and develop, what opportunities exist in the environment which will propel the organization to facilitate an identified learning outcome. So we've seen, although maybe not as much this year because obviously a bit of turbulence both in terms of economically but also weather-wise, but the overall trends, if you look at the kind of top-down numbers from a bit more of a helicopter view over the last, I guess, 10 years, is that tourist trade in Pembrokeshire is increasing, and particularly in Amroth. So Amroth tourist numbers increasing. Again, that's an external factor, is to an extent, other than having a fantastic place. We can't control the overall numbers of tourists coming into Amroth. We definitely wish we could, but there's kind of a wider picture there. Visit Pembrokeshire, who do a lot of the tourism stuff, have said to us, if they look at the numbers and spread, 10B would be one that is always historically for decades and decades got a lot of the trade, but people are starting to discover these new spots as well, which is really interesting. A second opportunity in terms of what we're seeing locally is the shift in trade in terms of the local businesses, and a number of the local businesses have started to stop serving early, even through the summer. Again, various kind of reasons for that in terms of their own businesses. But sometimes kind of after 6 p.m, the offerings, especially for something, this sort of thing, are a bit more limited. As you'll see on here, right next door, cafe next door, really great cafe. The couple that run it, again, people we are our neighbours, so we kind of, but there's certainly in places like this, enough kind of trade for everyone. But those guys obviously by, say, 4 or 5 o'clock, doors are closed. If you could go over the other end again, there's a couple of bars there. Again, one of them that closes, stops 7:57. So you could say lack of available food options post 5-6 p.m. Unless you want a sit-down restaurant-style meal, if you just want something, again, more street food or grab and go, limited options. And as you can imagine, especially in the summer months, 5-6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., there's people down on that beach, both in terms of the tourists, but also locals as well. A lot of locals, finish up school, college, whatever they're doing, parents take them down, they need a bit of food as well. So, we certainly see good trade in terms of stuff internally and ice cream and that sort of stuff. So, again, really big opportunity there. Generally, I think the popularity of street food has gone again through the roof in recent years. Popularity or interest in local options. So I mentioned earlier that we, got some really great local suppliers, a lot of local stuff we stocked in the shop. Over near Wiseman's Bridge and Saunders Foot, there's some really good examples. So Wiseman's Bridge, there's some guys who do like seafood, street food. Sorry, that's very hard to say. Out of the kind of horse trailer box, who are massively popular, and people will drive and go to Wiseman's Bridge for these guys because they're great. They do fantastic things. Obviously, with it being so coastal, things like local crab, local lobster, you can pick up fresh and available and do some awesome things with. So I think people like that experience more these days. You can go anywhere and have your kind of generic offerings, but I think if Pembrokeshire's not a place that you pick for generic could get anywhere options. It's actually very rare. So again, with a lot of the places around us, McDonald's, where's the nearest McDonald's? St. Clair's, Hereford West. So you've got to drive a while to get to somewhere like a McDonald's, or once again St. Clair's for like a Starbucks. They opened a Greggs in Tenby, which was like wow, like Greggs are here, and there's a great drive-through Greggs at St. Clair's now. But within Saunders Foot and Amroth, Pendine, all those local places, it's all local stuff. So massive opportunity there, because I think that's one of the charms that people like about the local area too. Another opportunity, and again one a little bit different, is opportunity to let unit out to local businesses. Now, this sometimes assumes that the one way forward is for us to do it ourselves, but actually, an opportunity here for us to develop that is to, if we want that as an offering, is to go to a local business, and I mentioned earlier, some of the maybe local street food traders, and say, here's a unit, here's somewhere that you could lease off us, have for the summer, bring your excellence in terms of what you do. Of course, especially if they come with a good reputation as well, we play off those in terms of strengths. I know this is then sitting on their strengths and weaknesses. Our kind of internal capabilities are less of a factor, apart from things like the infrastructure and what we're able to, and location. But actually the other stuff, we kind of mitigate that massively then. So some really great stuff there as well. So again, that's something that's worth looking at, thinking from an opportunities perspective. Just keeping an eye on the comments, seeing how everyone's getting. Laura, I think you need a job with me. So Laura said, as our alcohol licensing, burger and beer, etc. So I wonder with certainly the burger stuff massively. Alcohol licensing. So we're licensed for off-license sales, because in the shop we sell alcohol. So we are a licensed premises for off-license. I'm wondering if you did it for food in that respect, if you need it kind of for on-site consumption, because obviously places tend to not like you to kind of be able to just offer things. If you were going to go grab a beer and then go sit on the beach with it, it would need to be you that does that on your own, not necessarily us. I'm going to sit that down on an opportunity. So again, opportunity is these things. I think certainly when it comes to opportunities and thinking from that perspective, looking at it from almost a nothing off limits type thing is really important. I mentioned about the popularity of some of the street food units and that sort of thing. Again, if we were to develop as well a bit of a brand around what we were doing, and excellence in terms of bringing in dedicated members of the team that are very good at what they do, there's no reason why things like street food truck / new sites. Because you think if we became this like destination where you go there one of my business partners, Matty, went down to Cornwall, and he said there was this like kind of little hut where they were staying, and it sold, I'm going to say it was mussels. I think it was mussels or something like that. He said that all they sold is just mussels. That's it. They said every single day the queue was that, like, people rave about these things, and we've seen this. There was a truck that used to do like lobster rolls and that sort of stuff over Freshwater West, which is kind of much further up from us. Again, people would go there for them because they're like, these things are fantastic. You think if we were able to develop excellence and a brand around that, yes, we could have our kind of static unit there, but what's to stop us buying a street food van and then saying we can put the van down at the front in say Tenby or somewhere like that, or Saundersfoot, or wherever we want to go, or do local events. There's a lot of there's like Narberth Carnival that happens every year. If you uncap the bottle, I think it's different. Yeah, I think it is, Laura. I think you're right there. But again, worth considering and doing that sort of thing. If it was to be that, as long as we don't uncap it, we're fine. Obviously, we could trade under that current alcohol license. But yeah, worth considering how they intermingle, because people love that kind of thing, don't they? Said burger and a beer with that view, lovely summer's day. God, I want to be experiencing that right now. So yeah, new sites, again, another opportunity about thinking of different things. So that's enough on the opportunities front. Let's move over to threats. So, external factors beyond the organization's control, which could place the organization's mission or operation at risk. The organization may benefit from having contingency plans to address them should they could they occur. Try and identify the severity, probability, and occurrence. So number one, I think on here, and this affects kind of more partially the the trade in terms of more daytime, as I said, because it counters on there, is strong competition during daytime. As I said, places like Pirate Cafe next door, Smugglers over, Temple Bar, they're well established, know what they're doing. People use it, Smugglers one of my favorite places to eat down there. Really is great. So that needs to be thought about. Is you can't just open your doors and say, hey, what are we going to do here? Strong competition during the daytime. Next one, seasonality is, as we said, June, July, August, those kind of summer months. To be fair, even in, we get a lot of like Easter trade and that sort of thing. Those kind of key months, it would work. It would, you could, as long as you had a good offer, you could see it working. Right now, so today, where it's been, lashing it down and not very nice. Not so much, you wouldn't want to kind of have something like that there then. So seasonality is a big one. weather dependent. Again, as we've seen this year, the variance of the weather. So if we had a day where it was lashing it down all day on a Saturday, and then the following Saturday, say it was like 26 degrees, the level of sales would be radically different. So weather dependent, because as we know from that, you're so exposed. Is your custom that are coming in here? It's not like you've got a restaurant like with next door. If it's lashing it down and not great, but you're still here or going in for shelter, you can go indoor and eat indoors and do that kind of thing. We've not got that option here. You've got to, you're either outside. Can't fit everybody under this awning at the front. So that's something that's got to be kind of considered as well. I was going to put a part of that building on is the sea stuff. Now that's more of a kind of threat generally for the business, is that nature of us being by the ocean and the problems with the kind of coastal flooding, that sort of thing. Again, is one that we carefully have to consider along the way. It's a bit of a pain, but what can you do about that kind of thing? It's part of what we've taken on. So that's one that we have to think. Another one on here, planning permission. So we've got an interesting setup locally, and again, this is where some of this kind of local knowledge is really important to understand your kind of market context and where you're sat at. Planning permission, obviously we're under kind of a couple of authorities in that we have the Pembrokeshire Council, who are part of the kind of setup. We are also under, and especially for planning permission, Pembrokeshire, or what do they call the coastal path? Oh my God! Basically, the people that are the coastal path, Pembrokeshire coastal. There we go. Pembrokeshire Coastal National Park. That's what I meant. Because, of course, they do some really great conservation work. Also, because it is part of the Pembrokeshire, most of Pembrokeshire is within the national park. There's a lot of extra care taken from a conservation and environmental point of view, a protection, I guess, in terms of cultural and heritage and that sort of thing. They do a great job in terms of that, because it's really important. We've got such a special place, and it is, I know I say this all the time, I feel like I'm trying to sell Pembrokeshire to you now. Such a special place that needs protecting. It means that naturally the national park kind of authority are very protective of what we have. So things like this, then there would need to be conversations with them to look at the existing use and so when the planning permission was put in, as you said, because this was a later edition, there'll be certain conditions on that, and we'd need to look at the planning permission. And of course, you can set plans in motion and think, we'll do this. It doesn't always work. We saw an example locally actually where they'd been trading somewhere for about 7 months, had put the planning permission in, and the traded was they did that. It was because again of the setup, it was kind of low risk in terms of if they were rejected, they'd need to find a new home, but they weren't kind of like significantly out of pocket. They got a good season under the belt and were able to trade. Unfortunately, they were rejected. They're now having to find another site and do that. Hint with the opportunities there to let out to local business. But if we were to do that and say, kind of have a rejection there, it's okay, what's the kind of cost to us doing that? We certainly couldn't kind of set up and go and do that sort of thing. Thank you, Laura. We do have I literally am selling this now. We literally have a 2-bedroom holiday let upstairs. This kind of upper floor, it does actually, I'm going to do it because it's part of the gig, isn't it? This kind of 3D model does let you kind of absolutely beautiful. You go in here in the living room, the view out of the living room obviously is that fantastic view. Again, the view out the front bedroom is that fantastic view. It's phenomenal. You can drop me a little DM and I'll share the link on that with you. But the other contribution that you made, sorry, I'm just gonna bring that back up because that's the main point. I've got to do my selling job. Just gonna start spinning around. Post the link. I will post the link in here. Music as a draw from some demographics, creating ambience. Also fret if you upset any locals. Now that is so opportunity. I'm going to add there in terms of music. I love that kind of stuff. So like live music, or as you said, even just recording music and creating a bit of a ambiance and a vibe out there is is something really thing. But the frets there, local community consideration. The locals have to be, because at the end of the day, we are their local shop. We, I think, provide a very important service to the community. This time of year, the local community is our bread and butter, is the people that we serve. We're very fortunate and blessed to have a fantastic relationship with the local community. Again, a lot of them, as you said, left and right, are our neighbours, are our regulars. We, the ones that again run some of the local businesses. We also, go in and pop in them and use their services. So that gives us so many benefits in terms of a lot of them that have maybe accommodation or spare rooms that are let out on Airbnb and that sort of thing. Make people aware of, we've got a lovely shop in the village and blah, blah, blah. But that's because there's goodwill that's been bought up, that's been generated over the 45 years of previous trading. So therefore, we have to have that as a consideration. If we thought that we were going to upset the local community doing something, that poses a massive threat. Because all of a sudden you start to see how these external factors infect your internal. I've said this about reputation and what we do here. Again, that could quickly change if you start to upset the kind of local community and a lot of the local community. So we have a lot of second home ownership across Pembrokeshire, but in Amroth as well, where the tourists and people that are in actually are as good as local in terms of regulars within that community. We see that on the caravan sites as well. I just remembered, so some of the caravan sites have been growing. So one of the ones the other side of the village was acquired recently. There's some planning permission gone in for one of the other ones for expansion as well. So big expansion on the caravan sites, which again is another one as well. In terms of frets, I think we've got a good blend there. I'm just going to keep checking. I need to do 2 screens when I do this, really. Okay, fantastic. So, zooming out a little bit then, because I think we've got a good mix. So we said we're set out in here to really look at this as an opportunity. It's quite similar. Community in North Wales and such. Yeah, exactly, Laura. These pockets, really key. So I think it's all well. You have to work hand, and it's very different to. So obviously with BEC and where we are here and doing this, the course is a local community, but it's a very different sort of business. It's a very different feel. For example, back in Amroth, there's a community garden and there's a big hoo-ha about some stuff at the community garden. Again, local businesses, locals have all come together to kind of support that and do bits there in a way that you just wouldn't see from a kind of macro scale in a city as wide as Birmingham. Maybe little pockets of Birmingham and particular communities, but not at a citywide level in terms of things like that. So we've now got this filled in. We've got some, strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats all in here, both looking at those kind of internal factors, but external as well. Obviously, to begin to wrap this up and to begin to put this all together, it's that next step from this. So having this great exercise, but what do we do this? One, we need to keep on top of this. We need to, again, treat it as a dynamic document. It may be something that we have on our mind during meetings. So as we start to develop this idea and think about how we're going to operate, how we're going to do it, as other strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats come in, we need to add them in. Secondly, then, is looking at from a plan of internally operation, addressing those weaknesses needs to be a section of that. We need to think about what can we do to either remove some of these weaknesses or in order to mitigate against them. So like the limited seating opportunities, again, if we can't do something about that, how do we kind of minimize what it's able to do? Same with the strengths. How is the plan that we've put together to actually move forward on this? How is that playing to our strengths? So things like supplier relations, that reputation, the location, are we playing off them really well? And of course, that kind of initial decision is, do we think that we have a mix here that allows us to move forward? At a high level, I'd say yes, because, there's nothing in the weaknesses there that I think we can't get over. So the team capability is probably the biggest one there, because setup equipment, we can go out and spend money on getting equipment in and doing that sort of thing. But the team capability is one that we'd have to look at and think about, do we get somebody in? Do we do that sort of thing? In terms of the opportunities, as we can see, some massive opportunities. So again, both in terms of the helpful and our strengths, the plan we put together needs to be to looking to exploit this. So does our offer, in terms of what we put together, play off these different opportunities in terms of the interest in local options, street food, a lack of available options after 5-6 p.m. So if we said that and said, yeah, after 5-6 p.m, really shortage on options, but we close that unit at 3 o'clock, well, we've not made the most of that opportunity at all, have we? So really looking at those sorts of things. Same with the threats. So with these threats, again, these aren't necessarily things we can directly control. These are all external to us. But what can we do to mitigate? And this is always the same. So putting together maybe a risk matrix with each of these as a risk and our kind of mitigation plan in place. So again, strong competition during the daytime. Well, as we said, focusing maybe a little bit more on our evening offering, but even during the daytime, having a unique offering that has a clear USP is really key there. Seasonality and the weather dependency. Well, seasonality, again, it may be that, okay, as part of our operations, this unit's only going to be open during the main season, and then out of season, it's closed. Weather dependent, again, it would be looking at doing things like operationally, are we factoring in that weather? So if we know that next week it's going to rain for the whole week, are we lowering levels of stock and kind of planning ahead for that lack of trade? Sea risk, we put in place what we can in terms of, when we get alerts from the Natural Resources Wales around, high levels of the storms that we've had recently. Some of you may have seen on LinkedIn, I've shared a few photos from the storms where sea comes crashing up over the road. So, we put flood barriers up. We've got a risk of a flood evacuation plan. We've got sort of some stuff like that in place. Planning permission, again, so really looking and understanding where we sit from a planning permission perspective. Is there anything that we need to do? The National Park Authority hold surgeries where you can sit and have one-to-ones pre-application. So again, we would go into there. We would say, look, this is what we're trying to do. What do we need to look at? Do we need to get planning permission? Obviously, how would we go about that? What likeliness? What are the coastal authority going to do in terms of their issues or risks that we can then put against? Because if they say, well, we think an issue is going to be noise, litter, and XYZ, then we can do that. Local community consideration. Again, we can't control the views of other people, but we can do something about it in terms of consultation. So as I said, we've got a lot of regulars part of the local community. So floating the idea with them and saying, oh, we're thinking about doing this. How would you feel? What would you think about this? Raising it at some of the local, we have, obviously the kind of Amherst Community Council and that sort of thing. So making people aware, letting them share their thoughts and feelings ahead of, You know, if all of a sudden planning permission went in and they saw, oh, you know, these boys have put in for this, like, why have we not heard about it? And giving them a chance to voice, you know, they may say, well, we need to be, you know, we wouldn't want to see an increase in litter on the front and X, Y, Z. We can say, well, you know, we can put extra bins in place, we can do this, we can do that. So you start to see how this becomes a tool, not just for decision making in terms of looking across here and thinking, do we have enough here to move forward? But also in terms of the planning and decisions around execution of ideas, execution of exploiting opportunities as well. So it's not just a pretty framework that business schools like to do and is kind of academic or theoretical in nature. This is a real tool that's going to help you to make better decisions about your business and about what it is doing along the way. I've stopped sharing my screen. I'm just going to pull up this very quickly. Really lovely comment from Laura here. I enjoyed this. I did a HSC business 18 years ago, but haven't implemented this as a tool all that often. As a founder of a new startup, it's useful as a refresher as this tool to determine which ideas we pursue. You're completely right. So, you know, this is, as you said, if you're doing any qualification business, this is almost like 101, is like one of the first things that's, remember when I started to do some study, when I did business study, like GCSE business study, and it was something that came up. It's, and I think almost that makes people think, you know, it's basic, it's just a, but it's so powerful. Is we see this again with the business in Wales, with BEC. Actually, this is a really important framework, and I think it's the application of it that is really key. Is you have to keep reviewing it. You have to use it as a dynamic, living document that you're updating. And it's that kind of next step of one of my teachers always used to say, so what? So, you know, you make a point and say, well, you know, in our SWOT, we've got X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. So what? What is the implication of that for your business in terms of how you move forward and what you do? Really glad you guys have found this useful. And again, I think for a lot of people, this practical demonstration is really important rather than just me sitting and going through slides about SWOT. We've done one for real. I can take this away now to my business partners, and we can have a look and hopefully kind of move our plans forward for the unit. So watch your space. So it's, you know, been valuable use of my time as well as sharing this with you, giving you a bit of a demonstration. As always, topics and different things that you would want to cover, we're more than happy to take them. You can send questions into us at hello@becleaps, BECLEAPS.co.uk. And that is it. So I will end the stream there. Actually, one thing I want to tell you about that we've got coming up, for those of you in and around Birmingham and the West Midlands, we have our end of year drinks reception coming up very shortly. This is news because I think the registration link is coming out on Wednesday. We weren't actually going to do one this year, so we've done an annual drinks for the last few years. We've got a big event for our 5th anniversary coming up in January, so we were thinking of kind of skipping it and not doing both. However, the wonderful team at Tech WM reached out and asked if we're doing it, asked if we wanted to do it together. We've given in and we're going to do it because it's always a great event. So that is going to be Thursday, the 14th of December, 5 p.m. at Tricorn House near Five Ways in Birmingham. The links will be shared across our social media, hopefully by Wednesday. As always, would love to see as many of you there as possible. So look out for that. Look out for the next live stream as well. And enjoy the rest of your evening, day, wherever you are. Thank you very much.